In the course of an average life, we spend between 20 and 25 years asleep. But scientists don't know why.
This mystery has perplexed us since the beginning of time. Imagine this, spending 1/3 of your life and not knowing why you do it and what its purpose is. Sleep is one of the greatest mysteries that science is struggling with.
Now, as scientists develop the ability to look inside the sleeping brain, they may be on the brink of a remarkable discovery. It may be that the most important function of sleep is to allow us to dream. In the 1950s, researchers working in the newly emerging field of sleep science began to measure electrical activity generated by the sleeping brain. They soon discovered that sleep was not, as had been previously believed, a time when the mind lay dormant. It turned out that, in fact, the brain went through a series of transformations during sleep. As we fall asleep, our brainwave recordings change. As wakefulness begins to slip away, we become drowsy. This is stage 1 sleep. Gradually, we descend into deeper levels of unconsciousness, stages 2 and 3 sleep. Then, after around 20 minutes, we reach stage 4, the deepest form of sleep, in which the brain lies dormant. Scientists call it slow wave sleep because of the slow undulating brainwave recordings it produces. But then, after 90 minutes, the brainwaves suddenly change. Frenetic, jerky movements appear, indicating a burst of mental activity.
It is an awesome experience. I remember the first time I saw it, I just couldn't believe it. You see these slow, rhythmic patterns just disappear, and it looks as though the person is awake. But the person is sound asleep. And the only thing that you see is jerking movements of the eye muscles. And that's what was called rapid eye movement sleep.
It's hard sometimes if you don't see the eye movements themselves. If you just look at the EEG, the brain waves, you can't tell a REM state from a waking state. It looks just as active as if you were wide awake.
Periods of rapid eye movement sleep emerge with clockwork precision, at 90-minute intervals throughout the night. During these REM periods, the mind is more active than when we're awake. And when the early sleep researchers began to wake people up during the different stages of sleep, the reason for these sudden surges in brain activity became clear.
If you awaken somebody out of stages 3 or 4, if you ask them what they were thinking, they'll tell you that they were thinking nothing. They were, as far as they could tell, very deeply asleep. REM sleep is different because that's when we do our dreaming.
Michael, wake up. Can you tell me what's been going through your mind now?
Yeah. I was at a circus and was laughing at a clown in a big red suit.
If you wake somebody out of this state of sleep that we call REM sleep, most of the time they'll report a dream. Awaken them out of the non-REM stages, and most of the time they will not report a dream. So there's all this complex thinking going on that the person is able to relate when you get them out of a dream.
That's all I think.
Okay, thank you. You can go back to sleep now.
Sleep researchers rely heavily on our waking memories of dreams. Though it's possible to measure electrical activity in the sleeping brain, no one has yet invented a way to record the dream as it unfolds. But even if these dream reports are made as soon as we wake, they can only ever be a distant reflection of sleeping thought. As we emerge from sleep, the chemical composition of our brain changes rapidly. And for most of us, the dream slips quickly away.
One of the other fascinating aspects of REM sleep, which I think is clearly understudied or underappreciated, is that you have no memory of the event. You wake up from your REM sleep state and the memory of what was in your brain is vanishing, which is very unique. It's different from wakefulness. It's one of the most important differences from wakefulness. You are inventing things. It's totally new images and things that are not real. But these images disappear very quickly after you wake up.
Dream sleep has another characteristic which sets it apart from the other stages of sleep. In deep sleep, though our brains are inactive, it's nevertheless possible for us to move our bodies. Those who sleepwalk do so in deep sleep. But in REM, we're paralyzed. The only muscles we can move are the ones in our chest, which enable us to breathe, and the muscles of our eyes. It's called sleep paralysis, and we all experience it every time we enter REM. Sleep paralysis is a protective mechanism, nature's way of making sure we come to no harm when we dream. Its existence is evidence that evolution has gone to enormous lengths to preserve the dream state. But why should dreams be important to our evolution as a species? And when does dreaming begin? Babies spend about 9 hours a day in REM sleep. But no one knows when humans start to dream.
We have no idea when they begin to dream. We know they have very heavy REM time. We don't know when the neural networks are set up and connected well enough to sustain that kind of visual imagery with storyline. But we know that some infants certainly scream bloody murder at night as if they were having a nightmare long before they can tell us about it.
In the womb, the fetus spends most of its time in REM. Though perhaps because it doesn't need protection, sleep paralysis hasn't yet developed.
The majority of the state of the human organism in utero prior to birth is dream sleep. All the kicking and twitching that a pregnant mother feels during the last third of the pregnancy is assumed by most people to be wakeful movements, but in fact, these movements are the twitches of REM sleep.
REM sleep is not confined to humans. It's been identified in all species of mammal, even the largest.
Do animals dream? I don't know. It's hard to question them, to ask them about it. But they do have the physiological capabilities as we understand it. You might surmise that something is going on because physiologically it's identical to what we have. You see the same brainwave patterns, you see the same eye movement patterns, you see the little twitching that's occurring in your dog or your cat during that time.
REM isn't even restricted to advanced animals. The duck-billed platypus has 6 times more REM sleep than humans. It's the most primitive of all egg-laying mammals. It coexisted with the late dinosaurs. This means it's possible that even the dinosaurs had REM sleep. But to know whether dinosaurs dreamt, we'd have to be able to ask them.